Okay, I think we are live on all the appropriate streams. Welcome, everyone. Hello, my name is Christina, and I have the amazing heart ninja, Emily Orum, with us. I love your moniker. Yes, yes, go like cutting through all of it through like this blazing yes, with this blazing love. Yes, so thank you so much for joining me today, and welcome everyone that's on. So I want to give a brief introduction to Emily. If you don't know her yet, Emily is the Heart Ninja, is a pioneer and expert of sexual mastery, intimacy, love, personal empowerment, and alternative lifestyle relating. She aims to empower individuals to their own authentic truth, sex, and design and create their own unique love style. And she has an extensive tool belt emotional, somatic, and erotic intelligence and codependency recovery, and over 15 years of therapeutic practices. And she has many certifications and a range of skills as a body worker, sexual pioneer, sound healer, dominatrix, and visionary craniosacral practitioner. So again, welcome, Emily.
Yay, it is such a pleasure and honor to be here. And vulnerability, I have been, we've been in these same kind of interest circles together, and I've had a little bit of a crush on you. So it's really awesome that you like reached out to me. I'm like, oh my God, of course I'm going to say yes to this interview.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you. Well, the feeling is mutual. I love how this is a great segue actually, because I love the way that you are online, which is, I feel, both professional but extremely heart open. And it's such a unique way of being in this coaching space where everyone is looking to sort of, I don't know everyone, but there's this sort of energy of like, let me tell you what's happening. But the way that you serve up your wisdom is really like connected to your heart, and you're often like very emotional when you're talking, and you really have this, there's almost like sort of no barrier between like what you're feeling and experiencing and the way that you share that with the world. And it's so wonderful to me. I really admire that about you, so thank you so much for being you.
Thank you so much. Wow, you got me crying. It's not too hard, but it feels really beautiful to be able to share that like I feel that I can be me, and that I'm not filtering and or trying to be the coach or the professional, and that I get to just be me, and that's the gift. And that's taken many years to be able to get there, and trust that. And I feel grateful to be more there.
Hmm. Wonderful. And in the guise of sort of being vulnerable, our topic today is, where's the stairs, girls? Our topic today is around boss babes and nice guys, and what this means in our world today, how it came about. And you, as sort of, maybe you're also can identify with both of these sort of archetypes.
Yeah.
They're not necessarily gender specific, but there is a certain relevance in certain cultural right now around sort of nice guys and boss babes, and we're kind of gendering them right now. But we just want to make sure that they are both. Uh, all genders are kind of considered in both of these archetypes. And so
Yeah.
you have these experiences of kind of resonating with both of them in your life, and I would love for you to talk about what this means, like how it kind of became a certain talking point in your life, why people are coming to you as like wanting to be recovering nice guys and
Yes.
recovering boss babes. And
Right.
tell me a little bit more about that journey for you.
Wow. Well, boss babes, I feel like, again, I want to take out that there's anything bad or wrong about being called a boss babe or a nice guy.
Yes.
They are archetypes, and there's light aspects and shadow aspects within all archetypes. And I like to look at it more like the energetics in the archetypes, which is really helpful so that we don't get too gender specific. But basically, I think I can track kind of, as a soul, I've always been really powerful and assertive and a giver, right? Like really wanting to help the world, really wanting to get out there. And my, what I could say is like my assertiveness or leadership, or the shadow side of my boss babe control, caretaking, came also out of the trauma of how I grew up. So I didn't feel both my parents were addicts and alcoholics. And so I didn't have an available parent. And the modeling of what I saw was available was highly toxic, with a lot of codependency and abuse and like dynamics that were unhealthy in relationship, emotional and physical abuse. And so the reaction out of that was, I can't rely on anybody. Nobody's here for me. I have to do everything myself. And also that my needs are created by how I show up and give to others, right? Like how that's my identity, is by how I take care of other people, and also how I,
How
um,
your worth, what is your worth? Yeah.
what my worth is, and going after like my identity, like at the time was very much becoming a singer, and like nobody was going to support me, so I was going to achieve it until I became the thing, this
Mm.
driven sort of archetype of being a high achiever. So, and then over and over and over again, like creating relationships with, male identified, where they were wounded in some way, and I came in and I was the rescuer and I could take care of them. I was the giver. Ended up being the provider, and that always ended up leading into kind of like toxic dynamics and relationships, not feeling fulfilled, being in codependent relationships, not feeling reciprocated. So that's a little bit of like, I mean, I could go on forever around that, but hopefully that gives a templating of both, I think, my soul essence as being a leader and a
Mhm.
provider and like wanting to change the world and a giver, but also the shadow sides also being informed by a lot of the trauma that I've been through, where my identity is like being a giver, and without that I don't know who I am. And but I've done a lot of work around that.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
I can go into the nice guy, but I don't know if you want to just pause on that, if there's anything you want to.
No, I would love for you to go on the nice guy as well, because I think that they're the two sides of the same coin, and
Yes.
both also speak to this abandonment wound that we have typically as children. So I'd love for you to sort of explain what nice guy is, so people can have a clear understanding. Oh,
Okay, there we go. There's a little blip. So yeah, we're back online. So nice guys also could be considered the pleaser, the good girl, the the also showing up as a currency, as a giver. But and also extremely heart-centered, very sensitive, very empathic, very caring. And that archetype tends to get developed like also in trauma, where it's like, I want to get love and I want to feel safe. So I will change myself or manipulate myself in order to fit in order to be loved, in order to not rock the boat, in order
mm,
to gain love and approval. And so obviously, this creates a codependent dynamic that then often attracts looking for, you could say a controller or someone, an assertive leader, could be a woman or a man that's going to show them how to do things, that's going to, be taking care of them. So a lot of times, like these roles are kind of like flipped a little bit with what people talk about. But what I tend to talk about is like, again, more of the boss babe being maybe more like feminine identified, and the nice guy
mhm.
maybe being more male identified. And again, these dynamics are in any person regardless of gender.
Yes. And it's interesting that, it is regardless of gender, but this sort of the social commentary of today, and the sort of
Mm,
kind of pendulum swing of women taking more power and more space in the world, and this accompaniment of like, yes, I can do things, I can be my own boss, I can be the CEO, and I can have this sort of lifestyle that I want without having a man kind of dictating what that looks like for me. And
yeah.
the pendulum swinging maybe just too far in one way, where it creates a sort of rigidity around uh, their their structure, which is like, I can do this without men, and then it becomes kind of a sort of a shell around them, which is like, I don't even know how to kind of connect
Yeah.
with men anymore.
Right. Yeah. Oh my gosh. It's so true. And a lot of it is like women at the core of feeling that self abandonment, like the sense that I couldn't trust a man, or I can't, or I don't want to feel like subservient to a man or to the world. So I'm going to muscle it up. I'm going to take care of myself. I'm going to make my own money. I'm going to be the leader of my life, which in a way, like there's a lot of beautiful qualities to that. Right. And
Yeah.
then it swings over into not feeling safe to even be in intimacy, not feeling safe to open my heart or be vulnerable. You know, I work a lot with boss babes. I'm like, so how's your intimacy life? Like, how's your sense of pleasure? How are you at relaxing and like really opening up? They're like, I don't know how. I don't feel
I don't
like
have time for that.
I don't
Yeah.
have I don't have time for that. Like I'll have that when I find the right person.
Mm,
Or, you know, and so there's a lot of just like self abandonment in the ways of like pleasure and joy and intimacy and taking time to really like enjoy life, relax. And so it's an interesting thing because people will often come to me and they're like, wow, I've hired someone to help me like become more, maybe like more feminine, more like pleasure. Like I shouldn't need to pay for this,
hmm
which is a big thing. Like I should be able to know how to do this. And yet it's really hard. It's like they come to their pleasure, or they come to setting more boundaries for their pleasure or for their intimacy life. And it's extremely hard for them.
Yeah. And what's the interesting thing for me is that these models for being in our adult life, they were typically shaped in our formative years and our developmental years. And the shadow part is that for most of these women and men in Boss Babe or Nice Guy, they actually want the thing that they fear, right? Which is
Yes.
they women that are there that have everything together. What they are longing for typically is to surrender into
Right.
love, and it's that's the biggest fear. And for a nice guys, what they're longing for is their power and their assertiveness, and learning how to sort of like take charge and have this sort of dominant energy. And how does that, so like how do you sort of help people kind of recognize that the shadow is actually their greatest gift? It's like the thing that they long for the most.
Right. And I love that you said greatest gift, because our shadow, when we do the work to actualize it, because it tends to be a challenge that we work with and we learn about it, we become masters at like how did we get there, but also the process of like the liberation to get there. Like for example, a lot of, even in sports, great coaches were never just naturally gifted, or
Mm,
naturally they had to work like really very detailed and even go through a lot of challenges to be able to get to be a good player. So often working through the layers of the shadow of any aspect is going to harvest the superpower if we commit to the work, right?
mm-hmm.
So for instance, like again, surrender, relaxing, like people used to come to me, what's when your greatest challenge? I say like actually learning to relax, learning
Mm,
to let go, learning to trust, learning to like know that my pleasure is important instead of always being a caretaker and showing up and I'm good at it. Like I'm good at
mhm.
holding like 10 things at once, right? And then looking at how my nervous system is not balanced and like, you know, all the layers. So a woman wanting to learn to surrender, or a boss babe wanting to learn to surrender, wanting to trust, wanting to open up, and also welcome in a depth of um, intimacy where, you know, she can let go within that, you know, whether it's a sexual experience or even, you know, more a depthful partnership. Um, it, well, I just had a severe brain fart. Oh, the fear. Okay, so that basically coming into that place of creating and learning how to create her own inner security
Mm,
and trusting that she can state boundaries and that she can slow down and she can learn to trust herself within coming into intimacy, right? That she has
mm,
her voice, that she, but that she can also open up and let go of control. It's a kind of a process of her being able to trust her own needs and boundaries, but also being able to let go and not be so overly boundaried and let those emotions flow, let that messiness be there, let the fear, let the vulnerability, but also knowing that she can always slow things down and trust that she can titrate and make her boundaries. So
Mm.
it's simultaneously learning to trust your own needs and boundaries while also being able to be messy and let them go and be vulnerable and working with that dance.
Oh yeah, it's wonderful. You're reminding me of something. This idea that like of slowing down, and I think for a lot of women, in these moments when they are not working and they're alone and they're in their apartment is when they sort of feel everything, right? When they have this moment of themselves, they really feel their loneliness, they feel their sadness, they
Yeah.
feel all the places that, oh, like I want so much more from my life. What I'm longing for is like this loving and companionship, and coming to this place of the biggest fear is letting somebody in,
Mm.
because letting somebody in is almost like could be mimicking the origin wound of, like having, like, let's say your father like not be there for you, or
Right.
someone who was supposed to be your caretaker letting you down. It's really coming back to this origin wound, and we spend our life trying to protect ourselves from that wound again, and like put up our walls and shields, and pulling that back down is really like your pleasure is right next to your pain, like they're like living right next door to each other, and learning how to discern and how to rewrite that story
Yeah.
is so beautiful and so tender.
So beautiful, so tender, and like learning to one be like I think a lot of like is the first step is be with our own vulnerability. Like instead of running away from it and going into workaholicism and whatever coping strategy, it's like what's really here? Like, oh wow, I'm feeling lonely and I really do. Like how do I do the inner work to address and move toward that inner child within, right? And
Mhm.
how do I now like open up to receive what I'm really longing for while also working with one, the areas of discerning who is an appropriate match or partner, but also being careful of looking at like to what degree do we have, is it about letting go of our protectors
Mm,
or like modulating our protectors, right?
mm,
Like because the protectors are not bad or wrong, they're there for a reason, and it's important to have them. Like your boundaries are important, and to what degree have they become blocks? And this is that differentiation of like, when is a boundary actually honoring and really truly serving what we want and our values and what's important to us and what we want to create in our life, and when is it become a wall or a block that's now hurting or harming us or
mm,
limiting us from what we want. And learning that differentiation is a lifelong skill set and process.
yes, indeed. So how do you tell me what a healthy boundary looks like for someone? Like who is the boundary for? Like if I say
Yeah.
I have healthy boundaries versus, okay, that sounds more like a wall. Help me differentiate that for Facebook.
Yeah, so boundaries on are ideally in service to us, and they are ideally created to honor and also protect our our values and our needs. And ideally, the work is to come into that our needs and desires are serving our empowered self.
Mm,
Right? Like if this is truly what's in alignment with what feels good for me and my heart and my body, and what's also moving me forward in ways that are like really aligned to the life I want to create.
mm. Beautiful.
And like being able to differentiate that means really having a dedicated practice of coming into your core essential self. Like, who am I? What do I want in my life? What's important to me? And a big piece of coming out of self abandonment is like, is doing the work to find that out, right? Like,
Yes, yes. And knowing it kind of earlier on. So I think what a lot of people may experience is that they may have people that they're boundaryless, like they really have very
right.
porous boundaries until a moment, and then they snap, right? And then it's like, they just kind of, there's a big, huge overcompensation. and learning how to say, like, actually, my boundary was like 10 steps ago, and now I'm blowing up. So, it's on me to sort of own that I don't have the right boundaries at the appropriate moment. And also, like, to what you were saying, a lot of people have or struggle to say no or have boundaries because they think it's about rejecting the other person or saying no to a person. And
Yes.
that's why they struggle.
Oh, yeah. I mean, the whole boundary piece is such a huge, huge topic. And also recognizing that ideally our boundaries, like they want to be coming from a place of like love and the clarity of like this really feels in alignment with like my values and how I want to show up in the world. And sometimes a boundary does come from fear, and we need to set that, like if we're in a fight and it's just like, or and we're really, we get upset and we say something, and then it's messy and we don't feel good in the way that we need to stop it, and so we then cross the line into making someone wrong or what have you.
Mhm.
It's like recognizing that sometimes we do get protective and we do things in a way from protection that's messy and also hurts other people. And that's not, there's nothing wrong with that. And what we want to do if we're becoming conscious is like, okay, what do I really need? How do I like, how do I understand how to communicate what I need? Can I go back and say sorry? Can I clean this up? Like, where do I actually, where is my level of boundary, and what would feel good? Like, yeah, being in that dance of constantly sort of like understanding where our motivations are coming from and making it conscious, and ideally, ultimately, that our boundaries are coming from a place of like serving wholeness and serving love and serving our alignment.
Yes, yes. I think that's such an important thing. Like, even when you're in the middle of a fight with your partner, like stopping and be like, I need some space. It's actually in service. The boundary is actually in service to the relationship. It's
Yeah,
not just in service to me. Because if we continue on, we will escalate this to a place where we might regret. So putting
right.
boundaries around, like, let's stop this right now. I can't hold this anymore. Like, really is in service to the greater good of the relationship. So it's really healthy to stop when you're feeling that you don't have the capacity.
Right. Yes. Being able to say things like, I'm not available, I'm not resourced and available to hear this right now, or I don't have the capacity with how much I've been taking on right now to show up for you in this way. Um, the way that you're delivering what you want to tell me, like I'm collapsing right now and can't hear you, like all of these kinds of things, and I need some space, or I need to take some moment, or like that's actually power, right? Like
Yes.
for instance, right now I'm working with a nice guy that has a really, he goes, and this is what happens often too with nice guys, is they go way too quick into intimacy. They
Mm,
feel that they go barreling in. They feel like they need to give the woman sex right away, or they like are just caught up in what they want and the fantasy of what they want, and they're not really connected to their needs, and they're not really connected to their body, and they're not really connected to like what their body and sexuality needs. And so I've been working with a nice guy. It's like at the beginning, when you're basically coming into dating, is like to talk about this pattern of, I really need to slow down, I need to go slow within a sexuality, because I tend to lose myself or give myself over in ways that don't have me connected to myself. And first of all, like getting him to let go of the programming that that's not manly, and that that's like no woman's going to want to be with him if he sets his boundary or goes slow in intimacy. And he's just like, and also be able to learn how to communicate that and not collapse into shame, and to also handle like a woman's discomfort, or even handle a woman saying that's not going to work for me.
mm,
Right.
yes,
So all
yes.
the all the layers of working through that. So how to get him to be okay with his needs, how to get him to be able to communicate his needs and his boundaries, and then how to be able to work within the discomfort of a woman not working for her, and or her own discomfort or fears coming up around that, and how to learn to have those tools to be in that fire.
Yes. I would love to talk about nice guys a little bit more because, again, from this sort of like social commentary and with Me Too, I think a lot of men have realized, okay, I don't know how I've been showing up. I'm going to pull way back. I'm not going to I'm afraid to assert myself because I don't really understand what's appropriate and not. So I'll default by just kind of like pulling way back. And that leaves like this big gap of if we're talking about like a heterosexual relationship,
Yeah.
there's a big gap around women are like, okay, well, maybe you pulled too far back because I need you to actually lead this relationship forward. I need to feel like, okay, we need to do this. So there's a lot of fear and trepidation, and that could be one way of being a nice guy. And the other way of being a nice guy is sort of just like acquiescing to everything and being like, yes,
Yes.
okay, of course. And that actually, for me, is a huge turnoff.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a
And
huge
that's good.
turnoff.
And honestly, that's really good that you say that, because that's confusing for a nice guy, because nice guys think that if they give everything, and they show up and be the perfect gentleman and do whatever that the woman wants, that a woman finds that really arousing. And it's so important that you say that, because when I say that to nice guys, they're like, I just can't, no way. Like
Yes.
you get turned on by when I set my boundaries. I'm like, yeah, we're like, yes,
Yeah.
in a
Yeah.
healthy
Yeah.
relationship, in a healthy dynamic.
Yes. I think one of the things that happens if when I meet like someone that I would consider like a nice guy is that the red flag for me is I feel like they want something else, but they're not telling me. Like there's
Yeah.
an undercurrent of like there's something else going on here and I can't feel what it is and I am turned off. Like if I have it my way, I would rather, and this is another extreme, I would rather someone be like, okay, look, this is what I want from you. I want to sleep with you or this or that. I would rather them have this clarity of what they
Yes.
want from me rather than this sort of uh, over pleasing, but they secretly actually want something else. Women can feel that, and this is why if you are
Yes.
maybe a nice guy, you're not. Women are turning you down because they can feel that there's something else that you're not saying.
It's so huge. One of the things that's really hard, a couple things that are really challenging, of the dynamics that a lot of I address with nice guys, is that really helping them see their areas where they are a manipulator, where they're basically changing themselves or trying to become the thing of what they want to be loved. And so it looks like on the outside that they're doing it just out of selflessness and out of like, this is how I show up, but really underneath, like actually having kind of a clear set of motivations that they're, one, not being honest by or honest with. But a lot of times, a lot of this is just self abandonment. They have no idea that they're
Yes.
doing it. And
Yes.
so that's what I want to share to all the viewers, is like a lot of these dynamics. It's a lot of it's subconscious. A lot of it's not, you're not trying to hurt somebody. You're not trying to be a manipulator. And you fall into that by the pattern and the dynamic at play. Like, for
Mm,
instance, another shadow aspect that can come up with nice guys is like entitlement, which then is a really hard time
mm,
for them to own. It's like, if I give you all of these things and I show up to do all the things that not necessarily that I think you want, or maybe that you actually do want, that now you're also going to give me all these things that I want. And
mhm,
there hasn't been a clear sense of negotiation or communication around those things. And then the resentment, right? And then the nice guy might, like, again, either disconnect or shut down, or secretly then become jabby or manipulative in certain ways, and then not communicate those fears or feelings or desires, and then again, now we're in like a toxic dynamic.
yes. Yeah. Yeah. One of the thing that I've liked in previous relationships, even though it was hard, and like this is like an encouragement for like, you know, men or anyone really, if someone was willing to tell me the truth, even if it hurt me, I actually begin to trust them. So if they tell me something that is like, look, I am not available for this, or I'm not available for that, or they're willing to say the truth, even if it might upset me, I actually really respect. I don't want someone to hide what they're really feeling, because I can, that's something that I can feel, the evasiveness, I feel that. So when
Yes.
someone risks like potentially hurting my feelings, have a lot of respect for them, because I know
I
where they stand.
It's so powerful, and I need to hear that because my background is also like, hiding and fearing the loss and fearing hurting someone's feelings. And
Mhm.
the reality is that like you will hurt people's feelings, and it's okay, and it's how you show up for those feelings that might get hurt is the skill set to learn
Mm,
and to not abandon yourself, to be able to be in empathy but not change yourself. Like, for instance, there's somebody that I've kind of been dating, and I've been in a place where I'm not bringing in sexuality right away with dating. I'm really having, because I tend to lose myself or go too quickly,
mhm,
and then configure with people that are not actually appropriate or alignment because I'm project the fantasy of what I want onto them. So then again, more healing of self abandonment. And so there's a very tricky area where I'm having a boundary around sexuality. And then there's also the discernment of like, do I feel that if I went deeper into sexuality with someone here, even if I felt heart connected, is that potential here? Do I feel that desire and attraction? Is there like that kind of eros that wants to flow? And often I'll get in this confusing place of like, I am sort of in this boundary of going slow to really get to know somebody, and I don't know. But then when I get clarity, and I think I've kind of in getting clarity, I get so scared because this person is clearly so into me. They're so into me. They so want it. They're like, and they're also a beautiful person. There's like a lot of like connection, and there's a lot of alignment in the other ways. But this is kind of like a hard area for me I don't want someone to feel rejected, right? By my no. And
mhm.
so then what I do is I kind of like put it off, or like I then keep trying, or then, I start doing more self abandonment. And again, it's like I know he'll probably be a little disappointed and hurt if I actually again come to this conversation and be like, hey, I don't think there's a sexual like something here, like an attraction or a deepening in that area. That ultimately it's going to maybe create hurt feelings, but it's going to be better because I'm not then leading him on.
Mm. Oh my gosh, how many times have you guys done that? Rather than tell you what's true,
Really
let me
feel, yeah. Yeah, let me try, let me see, let me like, let's go on some more
yeah.
dates, or maybe like,
Yeah.
and yeah, it's this thing. And then we are creating more hurt, we're
Yes.
creating more, we're abandoning ourselves further because we're not really being met, and we're like
Mm,
holding on to something that's not really serving us. Can you relate? And then, ultimately we're going to hurt somebody's feelings more if we don't disclose the truth and we hold on to it.
mhm. And
Right? So then,
how many times have we like then maybe like tried to sabotage something, and then they say, and then we like try to end it because we don't want to actually we're trying to like sort of manipulate the ending, so like, oh my god, they didn't call me back, it's over. Like we create these really dramatic scenarios where nothing really needed to happen except the truth. And
right.
god, we make messes.
Right. And often that's can be the really difficult period, is like we keep that pattern of doing that sabotage, but the root, and
Mhm.
this is where I help people, is like how to get to, there's all the stuff on the outside, and then where's the root?
Yeah.
I don't feel safe to be honest because I'm scared of hurting this person, and I'm scared of losing them.
Love.
And then love, yeah. And so
Mhm.
then what I'll do is I'll also abandon myself. I'll abandon my truth to
Mhm.
keep that sense of love. And then, okay, it's like, okay, now that we know that pattern, we have to look at all the layers that then come out of that. and address the root, right? And then what happens is then a lot of times these other patterns start changing externally.
Yeah. And I can imagine, someone who abandons themselves like that could have had a narcissistic parent who didn't allow them their own like singular identity, right? That they had to sort of be a part of something else in order to have their sense of self. Like part of, our parents' job is to nurture our sense of self. But if our parents are extremely either self-absorbed or not attuned to us and have their own kind of problems and things, then a child will be like, okay, it's not okay that I'm just me. I have to be a caretaker. I have to be like your sweet, perfect little girl, or I have to be your good little boy, or I have to be the star player in order to get affection and love or being noticed. And this is where it starts. So our significant relationships in adulthood really model that trajectory and that dynamic, regardless of gender. And we will keep falling into that loop because a part of us wants to close the loop on this story, which is like, if I can just make them love me, then everything completes. If I can just get them to do this. But the problem is we keep picking the same kind of dynamics over and over, thinking that the ending will be different. And what we need to do is heal and then pick different.
I mean, that's the thing too. It's like, into the viewers, to put it out there. It's like, if you think about all your primary relationships that you've had, can you see an underlying pattern?
Mm.
Can you see that there is some level of, and it might look different, like the externals change, but
Mhm.
if you pull back and see, there is usually an overarching pattern. Like for me, meeting men where like the sexual attraction was super heavy and potent at the beginning, and for me thinking like, oh, we have so much in common, like this is like such a great relationship. And literally the pattern is the man will tend to go into some tragedy, or he has some kind of issue, like he'll lose his residence, or he is unstable in his job, or like has an addiction issue. And
Mhm.
I basically come in and be like, well, I can help you here. I can take care of you here. I can like, I'm compassionate here. And then literally, because of the love drugs and my fantasy projecting and like being so then bonded quickly and enmeshed based in sex and fantasy, I've now then, I don't realize it, but then I'm starting to come in and become the mother. I'm starting to come in and be the provider. I'm starting to come in to be the caretaker. And I see this like really embedded in so many relationships. And there's this, I think I really want to say this to the viewers, is there's this experience of like, what's wrong with me? Like, I'm so fucked up, or like
Mm.
and like, I don't trust myself. I don't trust that I can actually like have something that's healthy, have something that's actually aligned. And these are the places, like, if you're feeling this as the viewers right now, is like a lot of empathy, and you can change the dynamic. It is possible, and you're going to need some support. You're going to need some help. It's not something to like, again, try to attack just on yourself or listening to just audiobooks. I know there's a lot of like people,
Mhm.
if I just get enough audiobooks or like listen to enough, it's like, it's really retemplating core wounding and relationships with a healthy template, right? Like, so if people come in and work with me as a coach, I'm like, I tell them, I'm like, I'm gonna end up most likely playing out in our coaching dynamic probably some kind of your issue or dynamic that's going on in your other relationships. And we're going to look at that. We're going to talk about that. If it comes up, we're going to address it, and we're going to repattern it. We're going to create
Mm.
a new way of being, and I'm going to be your ally as you're going out, maybe in dating and connecting. And as those patterns come up, I'm going to help you not collapse into the old way. Like, we're going to be retemplating. And that's the way I find that this stuff really works at the root, is having a coach and or someone that can really identify the pattern and hold you accountable to the patterns of the shadow, and being accountable and owning that, and then learning the new life affirming patterns and helping you cross the bridge.
It's you've said it beautifully, Emily. Like I think one of the challenges, and people spend so much time doing it on their own,
Yeah.
is okay, well, if all right, now I've learned this lesson and I'll choose different, but we end up kind of choosing things that are the same, and this shell is just a little bit different, and
Oh
we
my
don't
gosh.
really see it's the same dynamic. And a lot of when someone decides to get support, they're normally at this sort of breaking point, which is like, I don't know what I'm doing wrong. I really need support for someone to show me and hold me accountable for the things that I say that I want in my life, but I somehow can't choose for myself.
Right. And to own that as power. Okay.
Yes.
So that's the piece is like, and that's what's so confusing is like, oh, if I admitted that, then something would be wrong with me. Or then it's like, no, 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 no. Like admitting that is the power and then changing the pattern, which is I'm no longer going to try to figure this out or do it by myself.
Mm,
And that's a lot. It's a huge boss babe pattern is like taking control and trying to do everything yourself or like hiding the level of vulnerability and masking that in order to then show up in the ways where you are proficient, right? Like a lot of boss babes, it's like their identity or their value does get really cultivated by one being a caretaker to children, or like if they have kids, that's what their identity is, and or their work in the world.
yeah. Yeah. And I
And
think
we kind of
I'm
can
sorry.
hide behind we can hide behind that.
Yes, yeah. And we kind of bury the longing that we have, which
Yeah.
instead of it's like, okay, I can do this on my own, like great, but I think you're longing, like really, really owning this, like, I long for love in my life. I long to be surrendered in love. And like you really have to hold that for yourself as like your sacred wish for yourself. But you have to admit it.
Yes.
And for nice is you have to also sort of stake the same claim for yourself, which is like, I actually want to hold my boundaries and be strong and like and lead and like have this kind of relationship where I like a woman is like devotional to me, like this is what I want. Like I don't
Yes.
have to, like you don't have to give all of yourself and hold yourself in sturdiness and like really claim that that's what you want. And
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
uncomfortable.
Yeah, and a lot of times with boss babes, it's like they'll come in and they'll hit their threshold with just even feeling the level of how much support they can take in from me. Like,
Mm,
oh my God, like wait, like it's like, and then as they open up and learn to receive that support, they're like, holy shit, like I have been denying myself from this for how many? I have like,
mm,
I can be actually this taken care of. Like you care about my feelings, you're here for me. And so their flex is like really allowing in the support, allowing in, being vulnerable and having someone come up and meet them and like really be able to also God, like a lot of women, they're like, oh my God, Emily, like I feel so good. Like I can let go. I can let go in these spaces. I can cry. I can feel messy. I can feel imperfect. And you're just right here and you're showing up, you're supportive, you're caring. And this is something that I have not felt like I could have in my life.
mm.
And so then
Yes,
the
and you're
process
a proxy. You're a proxy for that relationship that they want, and it's beautiful.
Exactly. And so that's the thing too, is like when clients come in and I work very deeply, that's the best, how I love to work the most is not many clients, but very deeply. And I say to them when they come in, I'm like, you're going to have a bonded relationship with me. Like we are going to go deep. We are going to have a very intimate relationship emotionally. Like I will also be sharing very, often vulnerable things that come up for me. If things come up in our relationship, I will also be disclosing those things like and they're kind of like, oh, like a lot of it is like, yeah. And a lot of it, the block is like, I don't know if I can show up to this. I don't know if like and I say to them, I say, well, if you want deep intimacy, if you want to really welcome in and you want to be, and for nice guys, it's like they're so scared of being seen in that vulnerability because of the shame. They're
Mhm.
so, and I'm like, that's the way that this works. Like you're going to be facing these vulnerable feelings, and I'm going to be right in there with you, and I'm not going to be abandoning you. I'm going to be here, and we're going to
Mhm.
work it out, and I'm going to be in the dance with you. And it's really powerful. And so then they hit am I worthy to receive that? And these are the two things, core deep, is like, I don't know if I'm worthy to have that and receive it. And
Mhm.
that's a huge piece that of entering that to create the worthiness. And then what happens is when you integrate the worthiness, then it's like, okay, I know I can have this. I trust the universe. I know that I'm worthy of it. And then the boundaries start to develop, to cultivate the boundaries to the blocks, boundaries to the old patterns, boundaries to the cycles that don't work, that really hold an intact, I'm worthy of this kind of connection. I'm worthy of this deep love. I now know what serves this deep love. And as I say, Heart Ninja style, let's fucking go.
And that is really the sort of second part too, which is like when you actually meet someone that is aligned with you, like, and then
Mhm.
and they're like, okay, all of my coping mechanisms, all of my saboteur like ideas, they're like there. It's like this is the test ground. You're like, okay, they're there. They want, this is what I want to do. I want to lash out. I want to like, I want to collapse. I want to do this. And it's like, no, this is where you meet yourself. When you meet someone that is the
In
reflection of
alignment.
what you want, then there's another layer of doing, which is like, oh my gosh, am I worthy of this? Yes,
Yeah.
here it is. I asked for this and now it's here and now I'm scared.
Yes, now I'm scared. And so that's the next layer. And so again, just understanding that this is multi-layered, multifaceted, and it's a process of being dedicated, that ultimately you know that you can cultivate and create the life and the relationships and the love that you want. And
Mm.
coming into that driver's seat and recognizing that you have that power and that you can be fulfilled in that way is really a potent journey.
Yeah.
It's a potent journey.
Yeah. Yeah. I just an anecdote from my own personal life, which was I had a habit of really choosing things that were always slightly unavailable, which meant like there was like something, an obstacle to overcome. Like we had to work to have this. Like, and it could have been, it was like people that didn't live in the same country or continent. It was maybe the idea of not being chosen with polyamory, and this idea that like there was something in the way of me sort of having all of this love from one person, and there always had to be some kind of obstacle or just choosing unavailable men. And then when
Right.
in recently I had something that was like very stable show up in my life and very like loving, and I was like like, oh shit, and really coming to terms
Available.
with all of the places where I was like, I have to meet myself here, like, wow, this is the thing I said I wanted, like, how are you going to respond to this? And it was interesting. I had to do a lot of work on that. And part of it actually was very emotional because I had to mourn the death of this like origin wound, which was like really putting something to rest, right? This wound
Ah,
of like, it was like super emotional because it's not always like fucking rainbows and unicorns when like you meet somebody. Like you're left with the last like vestige of like your wound, and it's like, close the casket on this wound, close the casket on a father that you like, that loved you but couldn't emotionally see you in all your totality. Put it to rest, put this idea to rest that you have to work for love, like put this idea to rest. And it was like this deep mourning process for me. But it was beautiful, and it really felt like it was like it that was the seal deal where I was like, no, okay, I won't choose anything that won't choose me anymore. Like that's just like, that's like table stakes. Like that is not happening anymore. And it was really
wow.
beautiful. Yeah.
I love that. I love that. And this is the important piece of what I call like creating death rituals.
Mm.
I'm really big into that, like really, and I often tend to work in conjunction with the moon cycles, is like really understanding where the places that we are holding on to the things that don't serve us, or holding on to just like these habits and patterns, and how can we actually recognize, yay, that they have served us, and it's time to put it, like the ways that they've cultivated a sense of growth, a sense of awareness, a sense of like how they've held us safe, but ultimately is to really mourn, really give them a proper burial. and have it be like a beautiful release ceremony, because that's the piece too, is like making friends with death. And that's a hard thing with most people have, because the idea of losing something, even if it's like not serving you, is just a really hard lesson in this lifetime to integrate. The impermanence piece and letting go and loss, and recognizing that death is an intrinsic part of also supporting life. Like as we release, as we let go of, like, every day I'm letting go of cells that like are
Mm.
no longer, or sloughing off like skin cells that no longer are in service, just even looking at how our bodies are constantly in a place of letting go. Each exhale is a death. So as we really attune to that process of loss and letting go, we're also embracing new life, and new chapters. And as a conscious being, that's where we get to implant the new patterns and ways of what we want to cultivate and claim.
Mm. Oh my gosh. Oh, I love your wisdom, Emily. I think that you're like, this is why I think that you resonate with so many people, is that there really is no block between let me say something smart, or let me say something, intellectual. Like, you really speak from your soul's journey that really and it's a deep wisdom. It's an integrated wisdom, not just something that you are sort of spinning off theoretically. And that's what I feel when you're connecting with your audience. It's really this sort of earned wisdom.
Thank you. Yeah, it's been a hard road, like, and that's what I can say is like, and I feel grateful for all the wisdom that's come out of it. It's been a real hard road of not having great intimacy, not having the modeling, having absolutely like feeling at the core, the essence, I am love. Like I always, as a kid, I felt this beaming angelic presence and love and very connected to spirits, and grew up in a really kind of like in an environment where people didn't know how to show up. They didn't, because of their own trauma and the trauma that was
Mhm.
passed down. And so there was this incessant desire out of the trauma and out of like the hurt of like, how do I make sense of this?
Mm.
And then how do I, even when I am repeating the patterns and it's hard and challenging, how do I find a way? How do I find a way through this? How do I believe that I'm worthy? How do I like cultivate a the modeling of like how to have a healthy relationship with myself and others? And I have some shame still that that's been so hard for me, like
Mm.
and I also have a tremendous amount of compassion, understanding of like, I didn't have any of the modeling. I don't have any memory of really, like, as a child, of a parent coming up and saying, are you okay, or what are you feeling right now, or like, like,
Wow.
I don't yeah, I don't have, I just don't, or being like, I had was raised by a babysitter until I was 7. And she gave me a lot of like nurturance and baths and like, like petting my head and hair and touch. But I don't have like a lot of these anchors of like real like care and touch. And so yeah, as a kid, when you don't have that modeling, and you have modeling for abuse, and it takes a while to learn how to like what is proper love, and how to reparent yourself in ways where you have no idea what that would be, right? Like what,
Yeah, yeah,
no modeling for like how to like even come in and understand your feelings and needs. And so it's been a road.
yeah. And this idea of picking not what's healthy but what's familiar is what we choose, until we understand that actually this is actually familiar is not good. Familiar keeps repeating the cycle. And comes with the deep compassion, for you, that you've experienced for yourself, which is like, now I know why I say I don't want these things, but I keep attracting them, and for myself as well. And if you're attracting the same thing, it's not because you're deliberately doing that because you hate yourself or anything like this. It's that
Yeah.
it's familiar, and familiar in some way still feels good.
Good.
There's the familiarity feels somehow good for your nervous system because you recognize it.
Nervous
And
system.
unfamiliar is unfamiliar, and we don't want to choose unfamiliar. But
Right.
reorienting towards healthy takes really takes oftentimes it takes support. And this is kind of where we're saying it takes the support to say, actually, the thing that you're doing is exactly the same as what you did last time. Let me orient you towards this.
Right. Yeah. And a lot of, women that have a pattern of like, being the provider or being the caretaker within their relationships, both with like if they have kids and or and welcoming in that man is that's unavailable, is that when they start actually really being available and really like showing that they're showing up to the relationship and modeling that level of care, and also those boundaries maybe to us when we're trying to come in and give them things or be sort of like assertive or providing, it's like that becomes uncomfortable, right?
Yeah.
Like and it's like then facing the areas of where we can go into that sabotage of then pushing it away, or fault finding is a big one for boss babes,
Mm,
like fault finding because we don't feel worthy of it. So we start nitpicking or
yeah.
finding the areas of what we don't like. But it's like, hang on, like this guy's actually really showing up for you. Like he cares. He's emotionally
Yeah.
available.
Yeah. And learning how to discern, yeah, these sort of critical is the critical nature that is it discernment or is it critical nature? Like are you being overly critical or you really can trust your discernment? It's good to have that support. So, Emily, how can people? I would love to talk to you more about this. I love your wisdom on this, but I would love, and I'm sure people would love to connect with you and learn more. What's the best way for people to connect with you? Tell them all about you more, more and more. I'll put your
Yay, so great. You can find me on Facebook and Instagram. Those are my two platforms. So if you want to get a feel for me or peruse my content and or just keep abreast of what I'm offering in the way of group programs, stay afloat with me there. You can also go to my website at theheartninja.com. And right now, so I most likely am going to be opening a little bit of a group program for around Day of the Dead and also Samhain and Halloween. I love to do ritualistic group containers, and I feel a really powerful desire to do some work around ancestral generational healing. So maybe looking at, our mother and father wounding as we kind of look at maybe some of our ancestors that have passed on the other side and do a sort of template upgrade, of like looking at some of the wounds and then really creating a ceremony of release, and then also a retemplating of what we're committed to have and create in our lives with ourselves and also our relationships. So keep an eye out for that. Most likely coming at the end of October. And I am going to be in Mexico. So I'll bring people into the journey. It'll be online, but I'll bring in the ceremonial aspect of like opening the portal into connecting to our ancestors. And it's really powerful. I'm really, really into ritual. So if you're into magic and ritual, you're probably going to like my work because I love embracing that aspect of how we can use magic and intentionality as a way to change ourselves and change our lives for the better. But right now, what I am offering is private work. I love my private work. It is like where I'm the happiest. I love going deep. I don't work with more than 5 clients at a time. I'm very much like super deep. Like if you work with me, it's 3 to 6 months. There's usually a Telegram or WhatsApp channel where you can access me Monday through Friday. I work with you with an extensive Google document to track your progress and your journey and support you with tips, tools, and also protocols that are going to move you toward what you want to create in your love, sex, and intimacy in your life. So right now, if that's you over on the other side and you're feeling an attraction to me and you're like, Emily, let's go, let's do this, I want to cultivate a healthy relationship with myself and also attract a partner, and or I want to feel really good in my sexuality. I want to I want to get out there and be able to feel empowered in my sexuality. I want to have relationships that are super fulfilling. Then what I would say is right now it's a process of filling out an application. You would reach out to me, fill out an application. If we're a good fit, then you would jump on a 90-minute or 75 to 90-minute breakthrough call. And for what I'd like to do is offer that for any viewer that comes through here for $300, which usually my price is $500 for a call like that. So anybody that has seen this video, and specifically it's like, hey, I saw the Boss Babe Nice Guy video, I'd love to, if it is a good fit, your application looks great and it feels like a good fit for us to have a 90-minute breakthrough call to possibly work in a larger way together, that would be offered to anybody that watches this for, if I am available, right? Like, let's say I can't always say that I might be available, but you can reach out and fill out an application. And if I am available and I have open space in my practice, then you will receive that discount for your breakthrough call.
Amazing. And yes, Emily, I think you're also your sort of signature talent is really helping people explore the nature of their sensuality and sexuality. Like there's this, you
Yeah.
really approach it with this sense of playfulness and openness, and like really like explore this beyond the boundaries of the sort of any sort of binary thoughts, and like really help
Yes.
you identify like your turn-ons and your connection, maybe even to kink or BDSM. Like you're a place, you're like this safe place of exploration around who you are in your totality. And that really includes a lot of the narrowness of the sexuality that we claim that we think we are. It was completely exploding that.
And that just to lastly touch on that, as far as Boss Babes and Nice Guys, I help those two reconcile their pleasure in their sexuality. So often nice guys, they love to actually be submissives in the bedroom. They love to have a woman direct them and tell them and what to do, and it's a shame piece often. And they love to be serve and show up as a service and tell me what you want, tell me what you like, but also there is this other piece of their disowned power that I also help them get into, often in their life and in the bedroom, right? So you're going to come in, and with negotiation with your partner, you're going to be leading things, right? You're going to find out what she likes, but you're going to be leading things and maybe not telling her how it's going to go.
Right.
Right. With Boss Babes, it's like they simultaneously have shame around being a bitch, right? Shame around controlling someone and telling them, I don't like that, or critical, I don't like that, do it this way, or stop doing it like this. They have shame around that. So help them to be okay with that. Help them that there's a part of them that likes it, but also help them to integrate what they most fear, right?
Kinkify it.
Right. That's how I work, baby. This is how I work. So we really get into the elements of kink and looking at how these energetics are both like things that you like, and also like where can you, like, the places that are hurting you in your life, how can you take them into your pleasure, but also what's the aspect that's going to repattern it both in your life and maybe stepping into also the area that's really hard for you in the bedroom, right? Like being tied up, like you're not going to share what we're doing tonight in the bedroom. You're going to just actually step back and receive and allow yourself to be completely taken care of from me tonight.
Woo! Okay.
I know. Can you imagine? Like, again, like someone coming in and saying that, and you built trust, you've built rapport, but like, I'm ready to, I want to hear what you want tonight, but really, like, this is going to be about me leading from what's going to be pleasurable for me. And I am going to consider you. I am going to, like, I'm thinking about what you want, but I'm not going to let you know how I'm going to get you there.
Oh,
can you imagine someone coming, shit? Oh shit, I'm done. I'm ready. Shit, when is that tonight? because I'm looking
Yes.
forward to
Oh
it.
my gosh, because I mean, like, I think so many, if I don't know, women and men, but like, if you're a woman and you're the one that's like trying to get everything done, and like your man, if you're in a heterosexual, they say that to you. Could you imagine? I mean, I'd be like, okay, I don't have to think about anything. I just have to receive and I have to trust. Like, oh, how erotic is that? How
Yeah.
erotic is that? Yeah,
And what's beautiful too
sign me
is
up.
like, yeah, right. And what's beautiful too is like, I'm queer. So I'm pansexual. So I love coming in and like being able to offer that to a woman because I work a lot with boss babes and sometimes we do intimacy containers where it's like I'm serving you tonight and I want to know what you want, but I'm not going to let you know how I'm going to get you there. And they're like both simultaneously scared and like, baby, let's fuck like
Hmm.
oh my god.
But that's the threshold of pleasure, which is the sort of arousal is the template of like the unknown, and like the security and the unknown are dancing together. Like this is arousal for, I mean, a template for arousal for most of us. And we don't always sort of push that edge, right? Because we're like, oh, well, this is what I like. And I mean, we're going off tangent now, but maybe we'll do a
Yes.
part two of this
Yeah, I was gonna
because
say if we part
yeah.
two on how these dynamics then translate to the bedroom and to our sexuality is a really fun, playful way, to dive into. So maybe that's part two of our next encounter.
Oh my gosh, Emily, thank you so much. Thank you for everyone that watched. I
Yay.
can't wait to do a part two. And please send a note in the comment of any questions or thoughts that you had about this talk. And I look forward to seeing you guys in the near future. And thank you again, Emily, the Heart Ninja, for joining us today.
It's
And we'll
been
see you
such a
again.
pleasure. It's been such a pleasure. Bye, everybody. I know,
See
right?
you.
Taking it off, baby.